I know. Long time no see, and it's me, the Bug. I'm here to smack you with some D&D content because apparently lately a bunch of fuckers are allergic to having a session 0. It's been multiple servers that I love to look into, and it's people getting mad for literally the simplest shit that could have been avoided if the mighty golden rule would be used. Hi, I didn't think I would have to make another session 0 video, but here we are. One of my biggest pet peeves when it comes to D&D, literally like most of them can be avoided if you use the mighty golden rule. Session 0 is law. And you're sitting there, and if you've never played D&D or any TTRPG, come here, Jimmy. I'm going to sit you down and explain what a session 0 is, because apparently many people are allergic to it just because, oh, it takes too long, and people are having fun, and oh no. I'll sit you down, Jimmy. Order a pizza, get some wings, I don't know, even get some fucking Taco Bell. I don't give a shit. Let me explain to you, Jimmy. Session 0 is a fun little thing that DMs, players, and people alike like to use to gauge their crowd of who's interested in their D&D campaign. For this, I would like to be using my current campaign, Skyna, as just an example of a campaign. Skyna has a bunch of different themes that just might have people interested, might not have people interested. It's one of those things you can use as like kind of like a pH gauge of people. Cool? Cool. Experiment time. Do you like pirates, Jimmy? If you said yes, you might like this campaign. If you don't like pirates, yeah, certain mechanics you might not like, but you might like the rest of the campaign. You don't have to like everything in someone's premise of a campaign during session 0 because things might change down the line. For example, if you guys don't like the whole boat and or ship mechanics in D&D, simple, you hire a captain. Don't do the boat shit. You literally just get on a ship, hire a captain. It's a waste of gold, or I could be a nice DM and maybe there might be a nice captain hanging out around town and you do a quest for them and they'll tote you around town, around the islands. It's one of those things where if you work with the DM, they'll work with you. And that's what Session 0 is all about. Session 0 is basically a thing where they lay down the ground rules of where you're going to be, what you're doing, what kind of campaign, and yes, Jimmy, if there are children about, this is the time to say, hi. Don't do anything vulgar because there are children about. I didn't think that it would have to be that fucking clear. Yes, you can't say dick jokes, Jimmy. Now, obviously, if this is a game fully of adults, congratulations, Jimmy, you're in. So let's continue. Explaining the setting, explaining like where you're starting. For example, we need 4 players about level 3. I can possibly extend it to possibly level 5, or more players. Like I've actually had like 8 players at one point. It was hell, but it was chaotic hell and I loved it. I can do 4 to 8 players at least. However, do understand that I would prefer a smaller party, so once we get 4 players, I might be a little cautious of who I add past that. I would prefer experienced players, but new players are welcome. However, if the new player falls behind or is not, learning, I'm sorry, you're gonna be booted off the island. Go on the dock of losers, board the boat of shame, and off to the island. Back to what I was saying. Before it went total drama island. That would be a fun campaign idea. Back to what I'm saying. It's one of those things where you're explaining everything, like the loose premise of your story without giving too much away. If you want to give a little away, so you give something for them to be interested in, that's okay too. The DM's responsibility during session 0 is to show a little bit of responsibility for crowd control. For example, if you have the people who are interested, say you have 4 to 7 players, and you see how they're interacting. Say they're practicing roleplay. They're like, oh, I'm this character, they're that character, you got this character, they're interacting. And you notice that these people get fucking wild. This would give you some experience learning the crowd control and be like, okay, let's settle down a little bit. This is also one of those points where you like show off a couple, like, hey, this is the point where you make your character sheets, if you have not already. NPCs, you can show off a few if you want. And you explain what kind of monsters you'll see around the environment. Of course, using my campaign as an example, Skyna, you'll be seeing islands, like possible tropical monsters, sea monsters, and situations possibly in the urban areas. So obviously, unless you literally piss off the gods, I don't think you're going to be seeing a lot of celestial creatures. Wink. There are some god creatures on the island, and you can interact with the island gods. Which is kind of funny because I did homebrew some island gods. Just be careful, because it can go one of two ways. They might like you, they might not like you. Run! This is where things also get to the point where you have to ask your players about their boundaries, what they like, what they dislike, and make sure to double check with them what they're okay with. But understand it's their responsibility to tell you. You're not psychic. And if they don't tell you and then later on they're like, oh no, this is twiggering. I'm saying twiggering just because, algorithm doesn't like a certain word. Obviously, D&D has a lot of heavy topics. The good, the bad, and the ugly. I personally don't bring a lot of ultra heavy topics. I mean, murder. Murder's there. But I'm not gonna just be like, oh yeah, well, the orcs did the whole Goblin Slayer thing. If you know, you know. You know what I mean. I'm not just gonna have that just lying around my campaign. Not saying it doesn't happen, like, IRL, but in a fantasy setting, I'm not gonna just throw that in my players' faces of, well, that happened. If my players have a darker backstory, which some of my players have, I do my best to not reveal their character stories, but be like, hey, just remember, maybe so-and-so's not the biggest fan of certain topics. Try to tread lightly. I'm not over here to sugarcoat things either, as well. If someone's literally just afraid of looks at notes. People, D&D is not for you, because D&D is literally a social game. You literally have people to play with, you're interacting with people, and one of the things that pisses me off more than anything is when people get to, like, either a virtual or physical table and just don't want to interact, because I'm the edgy and me. It's not even that. It's not even about being edgy. It's one of the things that pisses me off is when a whole party of people is having fun. They're in the tavern. They're drinking. They're partying. And then you're sitting there, silent, staring off into space, looking like Pim from Smiling Friends. And you're just like, hey buddy, are you having a good time? Just silence. And more silence. Understand that if you personally are that much like into your anxiety, maybe D&D and TTRPGs aren't for you, and go back to playing Baldur's Gate. Now, if your players don't have as many resources as you do, understand that as a D&D player myself and DM, I have physical books as well as resources to help my players do their thing. On certain websites, it allows you to share resources with your players that are in your physical games. Roll20, if you have the compendium, this is where the lingo gets weird. If you don't know what Roll20 is, Google it. Just Google it. It's a website resource where you can play any TTRPG. I know nothing about the one D&D Beyond. I don't know much about that one and how that one works. And I don't feel like paying for fucking premium. Their premium's ridiculous. But I will pay for $5 a month, and I can afford that. And Roll20, I can share my books with my friends in my game. So, let me be clear. I'm not over here endorsing Roll20, because the website's hella buggy. But if I can share my books that I've bought on Roll20. I bought them on sale. Don't come after me for buying a book twice, man. If I can share my books that I've bought with my friends, I'm good. I'm chill. We're good. But if your players don't have access to certain resources, because censorship is becoming quite the thing recently, there are websites, various websites, that you can go out and help your players find. A great example is some of my players found where to download certain PDFs. Wink. And then there's also 5e tools. Wink. Nudge. If you can't get the books. Wink. Nudge. And all you have to do is copy and paste that shit into either Roll20 or your D&D Beyond. And there are many various extensions for Google or whatever. As long as something's powered by Chromium, I don't know. Certain drug, apparently. There's a bunch of things that could help you with resources. Back to the original topic at hand. As the DM, just try and help your players the best you can with resources. But do know not to let your players steamroll you. I have had players be like, I only like using physical dice. Okay, good, but you gotta prove to me that you didn't constantly roll a fucking 20 every goddamn time. We are this late in the game that rolling a goddamn 20 isn't always going to hit the monster, so I don't give a shit if you roll the 20. I mean, if it's a crit, it's a crit, but if you get a dirty 20, it's not gonna do shit and hit my monster. So, to get back to what I was saying, if your players are trying to steamroll you, and they're trying to be obnoxious, and be those kind of people that are just trying to get into a game to have a power playing, kind of role-playing fantasy, D&D is not for you. Maybe play Sims or Baldur's Gate with mods. Now this is the time where I'm ranting about players. Understand, like I said earlier, it is your responsibility to let the DM know about your preferences, your boundaries, and things that would make you very uncomfortable if the GM put it in the game. The GM is not psychic. Do understand that the GM needs to know what you don't like. Or let them know, hey, I like this really cool monster. Could you find a way to incorporate this really cool monster? Is it so hard? You know, giving GM ideas is not always a bad thing. Unless it's me, and I almost TPK my party, Charles. Okay, it was Charles and Ty that time, but that's besides the point. And I will full-heartedly say, take notes. You don't always have to have something huge to take your notes. But take notes. Whether it be, like, something subtle to remind you what's going on, it doesn't have to be a lot, but do take notes. And it doesn't have to be every session either. If you're just doing a session where it's just kind of a role-play session, nothing much going on, just an introductory kind of like tavern thing, you don't have to write notes for that. But understand maybe there's a story-heavy session. You're writing a couple of things down, and all you see is the whole session you wrote a piece, like a dick on a piece of paper. Maybe D&D's not for you because you have the attention span of a monkey. Now, one of my favorite things, and it's happened in a lot of D&Ds that I've been in, I will introduce you to that guy. That guy is usually the guy who could possibly be the fedora tipper, or main character syndrome, or a lot of different things, but he's always that guy at the table. Or he could be racist to elves for no goddamn reason, and there's a reason I won't let you in my game. Crimson. Yeah, I'm calling your ass out on my video. I adore you, but no, you're not at my table because you're racist to elves for God knows what reason, dude. As I was saying, you don't want to be that guy. The one guy who makes the game not fun for anyone. Which, it's not fun for the GM or the player. I've had multiple people be the guy. Don't do that. Hell, I had a couple be the guy, just because someone made a joke about boobs. Of all things, boobs. And understand that if there is something wrong, communicate to your DM. As a person, communicate. It's not hard to communicate. If you really have that problem where you just are really shy and you don't, like, you're really bad at communicating any sort of fucking idea, and you're like, ooh, I can't speak, D&D is not for you. I'm just gonna say it. D&D is not for you if you are literally that person who's like, I want to talk to them, but I can't. And you have to go through 4 people to talk to them. D&D is not for you. This goes for anyone. If a DM does something wrong, a player does something wrong, talk, communicate, get the stick, pass it around, kumbaya, my lord. It pisses me off when people are sitting there and just being passive-aggressive, and no, you don't need to be passive-aggressive. Sit there, talk, be adults. I can understand if this happened in, like, high school or middle school where people are like, Johnny took my dice. You are adults. Suck it up. What else do I have in my notes? Now, I know that I mentioned letting the, DM know, hey, I don't like this or I don't like that. I'm not over here trying to invalidate anyone's trauma, fears, or phobias. Every single one of these is valid. Very valid. Mainly because I just want everyone to know, guess what? Understand that just because someone says no to one of these things, they're not trying to be that person in the corner being like, ew, I'm afraid of spiders. No. They're different, valid, and very various reasons of how, why, when something happens. A great example is one of the reasons I don't like my characters getting possessed is it reminds me of a seizure. Hi, various videos I mentioned, hi, I'm an epileptic, As many times as I joke about my seizures, it's actually kind of traumatic because, it feels like my body's out of my control. It's like a goddamn computer blue screen upstairs, but my body, it looks like a fucking Gmod ragdoll, and my brother thought I was being possessed by the fucking devil. So, the point I'm trying to make here is, like, I don't like that shit, and I don't prefer that. I understand in combat, you don't have the time to describe, like, oh, your body contorting and, like, being possessed by a goddamn, whatever demon. But, like, what bothers me is if a GM goes out of their way to be an asshole. You have every fucking right to be angry if a GM does that. I'm looking at you, Calvin. Because when a GM goes out of their way to be a, like, power-hungry asshole, that's not fun for you, that's not fun for anyone, and it's not a good time. So this is why Session 0 is important. You get to know your players, you get to know your GM, and you get to know the settings and a couple of different things along the way. It also gives people time to practice role-playing skills, make their character sheet, look into the setting, maybe adjust their character for the setting a little bit more, and adopt, various things that I've talked about throughout this video. So, my ending thoughts here. Just be nice to your DM. They're working really hard to try and give you an amazing setting to play D&D in. While on the other end, DMs try to be nice to your players because they're nice enough to sit and listen to you spouting off a bunch of nonsense for God knows how many hours on end. So, I think this is a good place to stop the video. This is one of the few times I took a little notes to try and keep myself a little bit organized. But it's kind of one of those things where I'm like, ugh, finally, D&D. It pissed me off somehow. I'm gonna try to upload more videos. It's gonna be hard though, because I'm not good at this kind of shit. But I wanted to try to do more like why we play videos and things like that. But I'm trying to find people to do those videos with, so yay! So, have a great day. I hope you guys understand the video, and yeah. Hopefully life has been treating y'all good. This has been the Bug. I'm a tired bug. Drink more Pepsi. And, try to draw. Have a good day.